Hi everybody, my name is Martin and welcome back to my video. Today I'm gonna be talking about why are we fighting, and I'll explain the attachment styles and theory. So the attachment theory was formulated by this genius and psychoanalyst called John Bowlby. He published his book trilogy around the year 1982 called Attachment and Loss, where he explained the different styles and types of attachment and how he observed how that attachment style work. Especially he used ducks, and he observed how the little ducklings would get hatched from the egg, attached to him as the first object they saw. And there is this famous picture of him being followed by a bunch of small ducklings around. So what is this whole concept of attachment theory about? So the concept is about the fact that as we attach to our caregivers when we were small kids, the same way we attach to our romantic partners as adults. There is around 30% people secure, 30% anxious, 30% avoidant, and around 10% anxious avoidant people. So I'll explain more in detail what each attachment style means. But first I want to talk a little bit about the background and why this is a feature we have as human beings. Why do we even attach? And this is simply because the evolution and nature, since we don't really have any other means to protect ourselves, like other animals. Let's say some animals can fly, some animals can run really fast, some animals are really good at hiding, some animals are predators, so they have claws and teeth. But we as human beings don't really have means like that to protect ourselves. So what we develop is our attachment. By attaching to someone, we develop this protection and defense mechanism. Let's say in the prehistoric times, when the human tribe got attacked by a tiger, each human would find the person they're attached to, let's say their family or their kids or their parents, and they would find them, and together they would either run or fight. So that was a really, really good way how to stay protected, alert the rest of the humans, and that became our main source of protection from predators and from death, essentially, right? So if you think about it, it's the same thing with babies. When, let's say, a baby becomes alone, let's say in the middle of the forest, the baby gets lost or doesn't see the parent or doesn't know where the parent is, it starts crying, it starts calling, and it gets this anxiety inside. The anxiety gets triggered, and that's what generates this frustration and discomfort and the crying and the yelling. And what it does, it essentially calls the parents, and that's how the parent can locate and find the baby. And essentially this is what can save their life, right? If there is a big saber-toothed tiger, that tiger is about to eat the baby starts crying, the parent will find it, they can run away. If the baby wouldn't feel this anxiety, but which, by the way, it's a separation anxiety, if the baby didn't feel this anxiety, it would get eaten. So this is a really important, crucial, and biologically wired system and protective mechanism we have and developed throughout the years. So what happens is that the baby goes around the world. If you observe babies today around, sometimes if you see a baby or some kids, what they do, they usually go around, they do their own thing, they play around with their toys, explore the environment, and when they get hurt or something happens to them, they come back to the parent or to the caregiver to find soothing or find comfort again. And then, believe it or not, it's the same thing what happens when we are adults. Except in a romantic relationship, we go out and we explore the environment in a sense of we are working on our career, we go on an adventure, we go traveling, we go talk to other people. And when we feel like we need to recharge again, we come back to our romantic partner the person we are attached to for some recharge or soothing, or let's say something bad happens in our life and some failure or some hard time, someone hurts us, we feel some kind of discomfort or pain, we always come back to the partner to get the soothing and the comfort. And that's exactly the little baby finding the parent. So this is how it's connected and how the attachment styles translate into an adult relationship too. So if we really think about it, this is really crucial for us to have this safe and secure place we can come back to rejuvenate and calm down our sympathetic nervous system and get out of the fight or flight, which means we calm down our anxiety. The anxiety is the trigger for becoming disconnected or feeling disconnected, and it triggers us to seek the connection and seek the attachment, to meet the need for feeling attached and have this secure and safe place in our life. So how did they find out how it all works, how people attach, and what is the trigger, and where is the anxiety coming from, and why is it this way and why is it that way? So what they did, this lady called Mary Ainsworth performed this experiment. It's called the strange situation experiment. And what she did, she took 3 different babies and she put them in a room with her mother or with their mother, and the mother would be sitting in the room, the baby would be playing around with the toys, and then the mother would leave the room when Mary would signal, and they would observe how the baby would react. So the secure baby would keep playing for a few more minutes, and after like 2-3 minutes, the baby would notice that the mother has left and hasn't come back yet. So the anxiety, essentially the fear of death, remember we talked about it from the saber-toothed tiger, the fear of death would trigger the anxiety, and they would start crying and making noise, and essentially they would call the mother back. So when the mother would enter the room again and she would pick up the baby, she would try to soothe it and touch it and make it feel calm again. The secure baby, after again a few minutes, would calm down, stop crying, relax, and by itself it would leave the mother's lap again and it would go play with the toys again. Now, that was a secure baby. What happens when the baby is anxious? Well, when the baby is anxious, the point the mother leaves, the baby starts crying, gets really upset, feels the anxiety of the fear of the death, and when the mother comes back, it quickly runs towards her, and when the mother starts calming it down and soothing it and touching it, the baby would not really calm down. It would, in a way, get mad at the mother. It would feel really... In that experiment, the baby would actually push the mother away and would not really like to be touched. So this is the weird thing about it, that the baby would calm down, but then it would stay mad at the mother. And even after a few minutes, the baby would not go back to playing with the toys, it would just stay distressed. And what happens when the avoidant baby is left alone in the room is that the avoidant baby doesn't even recognize, or it seems that it doesn't recognize that the mother has left. But when they further observed the situation, they have noticed that the baby pretends like it didn't notice that the mother has left the room, and when the mother enters the room back, the baby doesn't give a reaction to that either. But when they further observed it, they discovered that the baby becomes more distant and not responsive. Even when a mother would approach the avoidant baby after she returned back to the room, you would expect, same as the secure baby, that the baby would react and interact with the mother, but the avoidant baby would, again, let's say, hold a grudge, like stay mad, or like it would not react and not be very responsive. So in a way, it pretended that it didn't notice the mother left, but it still felt hurt and distressed by that. So to summarize it all, we have three main attachment styles: secure, anxious, and avoidant. And then we have a very rare fourth one, anxious avoidant style. So the anxious avoidant is so rare, I'm not gonna talk about it too much in this video. It's simply someone who didn't have any attachment figure they could attach to. Let's say an orphan, for example. There was no one to attach to. That way the whole attachment system has not even been developed, and those babies have been really traumatized by that and had really hard time, and really have hard time as an adult too. So how does someone form an insecure attachment style? Well, it all happens when we are a baby, and it's all about the interaction of the baby and the mother. So when the mother is there for the baby, most of the times when it needs the comfort or the soothing, the baby forms secure attachment style. If the mother is not there more than half of the times when the baby calls for the soothing or the reconnection, the baby forms an anxious attachment style. And if the mother is not there most of the time, the baby forms an avoidant attachment style. So what really happens? When the mother is sometimes there, sometimes she's not there, the baby forms an anxious attachment style, because essentially what is happening in their subconscious mind is they're thinking and they're worrying about the mother coming back again whenever she leaves. They don't trust the mother that she will return, so they are constantly anxious and worried whenever she's not there. And the avoidant baby actually learns that the caregiver is most of the time not there and most of the time doesn't respond, so it learns that it has to soothe their anxiety by itself. So how does all this comes together for you in your romantic relationship? Let me explain. So the same way we attached to our caregiver, the same way we attach to our romantic partner, right? So what happens? A secure attachment person would feel okay with a lot of intimacy and a lot of closeness, and would feel okay with being alone and spending time on their own, because they trust, they have a secure attachment style. They know they have their secure and safe place they can always come back to, and it will always be there. But anxious attachment style person develop this way of thinking that it cannot really rely on the caregiver or the object of the attachment to be there every time it needs, so it becomes really anxious. And how it translates into your relationship is that you become really worryful about the relationship, about the rejection, right? You require a lot of closeness because that's how you feel safe and secure. You constantly need to be close to your partner and know where they are and what are they doing, because the moment you feel disconnected, the anxiety kicks in, the separation anxiety kicks in, and literally the fear of death kicks in and takes over us. And anxious person will worry a lot about the rejection and will play games to keep the attention of the partner, or has a really hard time expressing how they feel, because they worry that by expressing how they feel or expressing their boundaries of what do they need, they risk rejection. They worry that the partner will react in a way that they will not like it, and they will say, okay, well, I can't be with you. So they have really hard time saying what they actually need and what they want, and instead of expressing themselves, they play these games and act out to manipulate. They are very suspicious of cheating, and they are constantly thinking about the relationship, and they're really unhappy when they are not in a relationship at all. They just simply need to feel attached, to feel safe. They don't feel like the world is safe without the attachment or on their own. It triggers their anxiety, right? And the avoidant person doesn't like to be attached because they have learned from their childhood that being attached actually creates the risk of being hurt, of being not suited or not getting the reconnection they are asking for. And because that really hurt them, they are probably the most hurt of all these attachment styles because they've learned that they cannot really trust even their own mother. How terrible thing is that? So what happens is they start relying just on themselves and they don't really trust anyone. And whenever they feel like they're attaching to someone, this anxiety kicks in because they feel like, oh wow, now I'm attached and that means I'm gonna get hurt. So they always need to keep their distance, they need to keep their space, and they need to really feel independent and not really attached to anyone. Avoidant person doesn't really attach very well. And how they behave in a romantic relationship, well, for example, they will send you mixed signals, they will value their independency greatly, and they will actually devalue you or their exes, and they will use different distancing strategies, like they will keep secrets, they will not really share all their plans with you, and they will withhold sex from you too, and also they might flirt with other people because in a way this is their way how they deactivate their anxiety, their attachment system, right? So by feeling not too close to you, subconsciously what is happening, they are feeling safe because what they are thinking, I mean, they are thinking that in a subconscious level, what they're thinking is, if I'm not so close, I'm not really so attached to this person and I'm not really depending on them so much to be happy, I will not get hurt. Also, they are constantly waiting for someone like the special one, the special partner who is gonna come and it's all just gonna be really perfect. And they have a hard time committing, and they usually will think that the other partner needs too much because they have learned they have to meet their needs on their own, and they think that they project this to everybody else around, especially in the romantic relationship, and they believe that their partner should meet all their needs by themselves too. And that's why whenever you have any need for closeness or connection, they will see it as too much and you will be too needy for them. So that would be the summary of secure, anxious, and avoidant attachment styles. But what can we do about it? Now when we have learned where it all started, how does it work, why there's different attachment styles, does that really mean that what attachment style you have, this is what you're stuck with for the rest of your life? Well, not really, that's the good news. Because the attachment styles are not solid, they are plastic. So what I mean by that is that we can slowly change it into something else. It will feel like it's not really changing at all at the beginning, but over time you will observe different behavior in your romantic relationship interactions, and you will see that your attachment style is slowly changing and you'll be becoming more secure. So this is all based on something called neuroplasticity or neurogenesis, which means that our brain is constantly changing, and our everyday experiences, our moment by moment experiences are actually constantly changing the way our brain is wired, how the neurons are firing, and we are creating new pathways in our brain, and that is literally changing who we are and how we behave and how we perceive the whole world, and how we attach to people can slowly change too. So how do we change our attachment style? Like, what would be the easiest way or the best way to do that, to become more secure, to relieve this anxiety, either from not having enough closeness or being too close? So I really love the work of Dr. Harville Hendricks, and he writes in his book about using the relationship, a romantic relationship, as the therapy. So what I mean by that, or what he means by that, it's essentially that we work together on healing our attachment styles and becoming secure together. How does this work? There's a bunch of exercises you can do with your partner, and by doing these exercises you will actually discover more about the history and the childhood of your partner. You'll get a different perspective about them. You will understand why they have certain attachment style and why they have certain triggers. And by doing these awesome exercises where one partner is playing the role of the parent and another partner is playing the role of them being the baby, we can heal and we can become more secure, and we can actually have the relationship what we really want. An interesting thing what you guys should understand is that the secure person is gonna make the anxious person more secure, and the avoidant person is gonna make the non-avoidant person more anxious. So how does this work? Because the secure person is okay with being really close and spending time on their own, they're okay with the anxious person asking for more and more closeness, and they don't feel triggered by that. The secure person doesn't feel triggered by more closeness, what the anxious person will be asking for. And what happens is that the anxious person will feel close and will feel soothed and comforted, and they will relax and they will stop worrying so much, and their anxiety will go away. Essentially, they will become more secure. And what happens when the avoidant person is dating someone who is not avoidant, means secure or anxious, what happens? They will be constantly pushing their partner away. And that is going to trigger the secure or the anxious person. Both they will feel really anxious about themselves, and they will constantly think about what are they doing wrong that this person keeps pushing them away. But the thing is, it's nothing with them, it's really with the avoidant person having this trigger and anxiety from being close and attached to someone. Another thing I want to mention is that a secure person actually gets turned off by an avoidant person, because the secure person doesn't want to change who they are, and they are comfortable with their needs and expressing their needs. So they will usually get turned off by the avoidant person. Once the avoidant person is gonna start pushing them away, they will simply just move on and go look for someone else. That's the interesting thing, that if you look at the dating pool and all the people who are trying to date other people, the higher the age average in this dating pool, the higher the percentage of avoidant people being there. What I mean by that, if you look at older people around you who you know they're single, or they really say they don't need anyone, or they're happy just by themselves, and they are really like 40, 50, you can probably tell that they're avoidant. And there is more and more avoidant left the older the dating pool gets, because all the secure and anxious people are actually attached and in a relationship. So what I'm trying to say is that being an avoidant person, they really don't want to change, they never really want to work on themselves. Secure and anxious person, they really want to, they're easier to work on themselves and work on their personal growth. Avoidant people really value their independence, and unfortunately we live in this culture where this independency and individuality is really praised. So avoidant people rarely want to work on themselves and change and become more secure. And what happens is they live their lives alone and not really in any serious or long-term romantic relationship. But this is really important because I want you guys to understand that by being alone and not thinking that you don't really need anyone, eventually you're gonna become unhappy. Because the number one predictor of happiness is actually relationships. Believe it or not, that's what it is. So these people end up realizing that they really need it, they're really lonely, and they really actually need someone to attach to and someone to share their joy with. I don't know if you know the movie Into the Wild, where the main character is actually a perfect example of an avoidant person. And I'm not gonna spoil it for you. All I'm gonna say is that the whole point of the movie is that the joy is only real when it's shared. Unfortunately, in our current culture and the Western society, we are being told that the modern dating advice is to make ourselves less available for our partner or potential partner, and that we should value our independence and individuality, which essentially is making people avoidant. And if you really think about it, someone who is secure or who is anxious and they follow this advice, they will eventually attract someone who is avoidant. And over time, their real needs and their attachment style will actually come to the surface. This is a pattern what, unless it's worked on, it doesn't really change by itself. So what happens is that this anxious or secure person who's pretending or acting as an avoidant will attract an avoidant person, and eventually they will not get their needs for intimacy and closeness met, and they will fall into this anxious and avoidant trap, which is a topic by itself, and I'm gonna make another video about it later on, so check it out. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to understand that being healthy, dependable on someone, and realizing that we are not each individual, we're all one, and we together work the best as the man and the woman. The man needs the woman and the woman needs the man, and together it's a balance, and that's how it was meant to be. That's how nature created us. We all have different characteristics and different benefits we can bring to the table, and together it's how it should be. No one is better or worse. So I think this is really a downfall of the modern advice, and it's really turning the relationships into a big turmoil, because as you can see, we have 50% divorce rate, and especially now with the social media, it's really easy to simply move on to the next person and find someone else whenever some difficult time happens in a relationship. We have a fight or some struggle arises, right? So we are really biologically wired to attach and to be attached and to have this safe place. As I was talking about it in the beginning of this video, the attachment styles are the matter of life and death, or they were matter of life and death. Today they are not matter of life and death, but it's still within us, and it's still how we are wired. And to feel safe and secure, we need this safe place we can always come back to. So don't believe anyone telling you that you don't need anyone, and depending on someone is unhealthy and bad, and then you should be just individual person who doesn't need anyone for anything. We are all social beings, and we all in a way need each other and help each other to be the best versions of ourselves. So if we really think about all this, what I was talking about in this video, this explains why people fight and why so many relationships fail. Because people don't have their attachment needs met, and that triggers an anxiety. And when people are anxious, they lose their emotional control and they explode, or they start fighting about different things what actually have nothing to do with the fighting altogether. It's just all about soothing their anxiety. They want to soothe their anxiety and feel safe again. And for me personally, that was really crucial to understand, and I believe that you can find a lot of benefit from that too. And from now on, you can look at relationships in a different way. If you like this video, please subscribe and like below, and let me know in the comments what you think. And I hope you found some value in this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.